Hey, Talkin' Hawks fans, Matt Vanderberg here, and just letting you know that through the rest of this season, you will be able to find Talkin' Hawks content here on the Taco-Bout network. However, we're also going to be branching over into our own YouTube channel at Talkin' Hawks. So through this year, we're going to post on both platforms, but following the end of season 2, so the in-season stuff, we're going to be exclusively over on the Talkin' Hawks YouTube channel. We're excited for the branch out, but we also understand that we want our local subscribers to continue to be that way. But don't forget to subscribe to the new channel so that way you can get all the upcoming stuff.
And we are just so excited that you are here. And today we have an awesome conversation coming up with special teams coordinator from the Hawkeye football team, LeVar Woods. This is such a great interview. We can't wait for you to hear it. We're also going to be talking about all things that happened over the summer, Kids Day, things that have happened in the last couple of weeks. And then, of course, we're previewing the Illinois State game. We can't wait for the first official game of the season. Thanks again for coming back. This is Talkin' Hawks, presented by Hillsbank.
No matter where you are in life, Hillsbank is here to help you succeed.
Whether you're buying your first house, saving for your child's future, or preparing for retirement, you can count on the people at Hillsbank for the support you need to reach your goals.
It's easy to connect with a banker in person, over the phone, or on hillsbank.com.
Because we believe banking is better through human connection.
Hillsbank is an equal housing lender and FDIC member.
Hi, Matt.
Hey,
welcome.
Back in the seats.
I know, we can't even start. We don't even know how to start. This is so exciting.
That's great.
Second season, and we're in kind of a new setting.
Yeah.
Still the same studio with, of course, Storyline Multimedia, because they're the best producers. What?
You said their name correctly.
I know. I always mess it up. John, you know what I always do? I always call you guys multimedia storytelling. Because it was a class that I took in college, and I get it mixed up in my head all the time. Either way, it's not that. It's Storyline Multimedia. They're absolutely the best. John, Matthew, James, we miss you. But they have got this awesome new set for us with a darker wall, some new props in the background.
And there's going to be some new ones behind me. I'm pretty sure they're in a box, just need to be put together. IKEA?
Either way.
No?
Okay. Either way, new season. Sort of a new setting, and we're just so excited to be here and so excited that all of you are here. Some new mugs.
With the black on the inside, I kind of like that.
I like that too. Different. But again, just pumped that everybody decided to join us again. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do that.
You can be one of the first ones.
Totally.
An OG.
Okay. So Matt, let's talk about just a few things that have happened recently. We have not had an episode since Kids Day. Let's talk about it. It was actually really special for us, because we got to bring both kids. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't 9,000 degrees, which was even better. It was like 74, sunny with a breeze.
I mean, it was special and it wasn't.
Why?
Well, because we had to leave early because Blair needed a nap.
Well, yeah. And then Dax.
So you got to stay with Dax. But
yeah. But it was just really cool to see them in that setting and have them be there when I was talking on the video board. And it's just really special.
That is very cool.
To think about, like, started that job back in 2016. Like, we weren't even married yet. Obviously had no kids, and then fast forward, still doing the same job, and now added 2 kids and we're married. It's really exciting.
Very
it's
cool.
Just really special. But Kids Day, talk to me about it. What did you see? What do you got? We can make it quick because it's been a while since Kids Day.
Yeah. Well, did you see the? Well, I guess if we're gonna focus only on Kids Day, they already gave Tori Taylor's number away.
Yeah.
Which I thought was wild.
Mm-hmm.
Like, give us some time. They were MVP chance, Heisman chance as he was walking out on the field. Let's give him a little bit of grace, you know?
Yeah.
But no, new punter Reese Dakin, I might be saying his last name wrong.
Okay.
Punted phenomenally. I watched him in warm-ups and Dax was like, that is way up high in the sky. I was like, yeah, those are some bombs.
Yeah.
So really good to see that we're going to have that part of the game back. Because although, like, it's kind of like a joke that Iowa does punting well, it really does help us win football games. Mm-hmm. With the stifling defense and then good punt. Like, field position is a big part of the way that Iowa plays. So to have another weapon back there is great. I just don't know about already giving away Tori Taylor's number.
We felt the same way when they gave Nico 89, and it turned out okay.
No comment. Defensively, I mean, we look pretty good. I mean, you kind of expect us to always look good on defense. Offensively, I think is where most of the question marks are. And rightfully so. We got a new offensive coordinator, new system, a lot of new pieces to the puzzle. A lot of guys graduating. And
okay, I have to stop you though, because I remember when you were playing and you guys would do Kids Day or even like spring practice or whatever, and all these headlines would come out about like defense looked great, offense question mark, like there were all those things. And
Oh,
you were
yeah.
like, of course we're going to look bad. We're going up against a defense that knows exactly what we're going to do every single time. They know all the plays. They know all the checkdowns. They know everything. Of course we're going to look like crap. Do you remember this?
I would never say such a thing.
I'm just
No,
saying.
but typically the defense is a little bit ahead of the offense.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like, well, first of all those guys have played together for a long time now. So they know the system, they understand what it is. So new system obviously takes a little bit of time, but also once the offense finds something that's like, oh, we burned him on this play on a Tuesday in practice. Wednesday, the defense is going to figure out how to stop that guy.
Mhm.
And then Thursday, you might pop them for something new. And then Friday, they're like, yeah, we're not letting that happen anymore. So,
Right.
I mean, inevitably, that's just the way it is. There's a saying in football that it's between the two coordinators, it's whoever has the marker last. Because, well, if your linebacker goes out here, then we'll just run this. And then you give the defensive coordinator the marker. Well, if he does this, and the safety will come down and do this. And you give the OC the marker. Well, if he comes down here, then I'm going to do, you know what I mean? It's just whoever has the marker last. Unfortunately,
It's actually kind of funny.
well, Coach Barker, I feel like typically has the marker last with the way that we scheme up other teams. But I think most of the question marks, I'm gonna leave that. I think the things that look pretty good. I think the offensive line has a lot of older guys, so I'm hoping that kind of gels. I know there was a lot of injuries up front last year, a lot of rotating pieces, so I'm hoping that kind of gets settled in. Running back committee is still there, between Caleb Johnson, LeSean Williams, Kamari Moulton. Like there are a bunch of names that played last year that are coming back, which is good, especially in a run heavy offense. Like what we expect. There's going to be a few nuances, of course, but we're going to run the football. Like that's just the way that Iowa football is built. Outside, a lot of question marks with Nico gone, Eric All gone. It'll be nice to have Luke Lachey. He was in full pads, so you can only assume that he'll be ready to go this coming Saturday. But a lot of new faces at receiver. So it's kind of interesting how like age does help just because you've had more time at a higher level, but everybody's still learning the new system. You got transfers coming in like Jerry Bowie. And then the biggest question mark of the entire thing outside of how the offense is going to be called is the quarterback position. Mm-hmm. And I still think there's a question mark, right?
I think so. But from what I've heard, I think KF kind of led on that it's going to be Cade or he expects it to be. But that's just like Twitter chatter. So X chatter, whatever.
the website chatter, the Elon chatter. So there's a lot of hoopla. I know a lot of pushback on Cade's performance initially from Kids Day, that the numbers didn't look great. And then again, it's a top 5 defense with all new positions. And it's not like, oh, well, you're just giving him a scapegoat. You're just giving him excuses. He needs to perform better. I don't doubt that like Cade wants to go out there and do something. But at the same token, we have to understand that there is context within these things. And I'm excited to see what happens moving forward. I did like all the different formation stuff. We're clustered, we're out, we're motioning. There's a lot of pre-snap stuff that I absolutely love. Post-snap is obviously just the play, but I like pre-snap on trying to get in their heads of, okay, well, if he bumps out here, now I got to do this. And, it just makes the defense think just a hair longer and have to prepare that much more for different looks and different things, even if it's still inside zone or a stretch play or slants, like whatever it is. But if you dress it up a little bit differently, you at least make them have to think a little bit harder. So I do like that aspect of it. So I'm kind of curious to see what'll happen. I think Brendan Sullivan played well. The Northwestern transfer, obviously he's played Big Ten football before, as has Cade. I'm just kind of interested to see how everything shakes out on Saturday. I don't necessarily see like a Rudock Beathard kind of thing that I went through in 2014, where, Rudock kind of got injured here or there, and then CJ would come in and play really well. But it was Jake's team, it was kind of an interesting time. I don't necessarily foresee that lasting throughout the season, but it'll be nice when somebody definitively says, I'm the starter.
Yeah. I also think it's...
and maybe that's happened in the locker room. We just haven't seen it at the public.
It's very possible. I also think that's kind of a positive too, though, when you say like Brendan Sullivan did play Big Ten knows how to play Big Ten football, has done it. So is Cade. And so now you've got your 1 and 2 that know exactly what they're doing. You know what I mean? In terms of like atmosphere and your opponents and all of those types of things. So it's not like you just, oh shoot, like if Cade goes down or if things aren't going right, like, oh man, what's next?
Right.
So
deer in headlights shouldn't be the case with either one of those guys.
Yeah. it's exciting. Anything else?
No, although we do need to kind of talk about it. It's the first time since 1975 that neither Coach Fry nor Coach Ferentz is going to be coaching the team.
Yeah, so this leads us
obviously
into
very sad.
This leads us into.
Well, you can. Do you want me to say it?
Yeah.
You keep trying to take over my bits.
Well, you're not doing it.
Our unsung hero brought to you by JB Roofing is going to be Coach Ferentz, and not necessarily for doing something wrong, right? But there's a couple things here. One, I don't know what self-imposed absolutely means. I don't know if self-imposed means him. I don't know if self-imposed means the athletic department. I don't really know. But the fact that he was able to take that question and say, I did something wrong, I don't think there's many people like that out there. Mm-hmm. So first of all, the leadership on that side. But going further along with leadership, when you have a foundation of the way that you've done things for so long, the sign of a good leader is that things can function even when you're not there. Mm. And so I think that Coach Wallace has been around for a while. He was there when I was there. He's going to step into that role, I think, do just fine as the acting head coach. But the fact that Coach Ferentz has built such a foundation of how the culture is going to be, that it should function as a Coach Ferentz-led team, even if he's not on the sideline. And that to me is the mark of a true leader.
Yeah. Speaking of true leader, so I'm gonna, what did
See?
you?
Commandeer. Take over.
Commandeer. It's just if I do it better, I might as well, you know?
But whose standards?
No, I did want to share this story though. So this past Friday, August 23rd or 24th, that'd be the 24th. We had a big event in Coralville put on by Montgomery,
23rd.
The 23rd, put on by Montgomery Companies, and it was featuring Lisa Bluter, Jordan Montgomery, and John Maxwell. And Lisa Bluter was kind of like asked like question and answer, kind of like an interview. And now that she's retired, she can tell a few more stories that maybe she hasn't told before, like especially in public or on social media, whatever it might be. And the reason that she got on that topic is because John Maxwell's new book is called High Road Leadership. So talking about the difference between high road and low road leadership and the divisiveness and all of the things. So anyway, she kind of got on that topic on one of the questions, and she said, you know, like this, it was kind of like the last thing that she said with her whole interview. And she was like, I really just want to give a shout out to Coach Ferentz. And she was like, if we're talking about high road leadership, like he is a guy that knows how to lead and take the high road, essentially. I've said this a million times, but, and she said, well, you know, an example of this, of low road leadership in the exact same circumstance, sort of, was myself, was Lisa. And she said that, and she didn't say what year it was or anything like that, but she got written up by the NCAA for an infraction with a recruit. And it was for giving a recruit on campus a cupcake that cost her $1.47. She's like, it was a Molly's cupcake. I gave her it. And she got written up because she didn't charge the recruit $1.47. And she's like, if I would have taken the high road, like, yeah, I broke the rule. And she's like, at the time, was it like out of malice? Like, no, of course it wasn't. But yeah, I broke a rule. I wasn't supposed to do that. I was supposed to charge this girl $1.47 for a cupcake. And she's like, so high road leader would have been like, you know what? Yeah, like I did do the wrong thing. And, you know, just kind of taking it, and exactly how Coach Ferentz did. And she's like, but I definitely took the low road. And so I march up to so-and-so's office and this is ridiculous. This is a cupcake, you know, all these things. And yeah, she told the story a lot better than what I'm telling. But essentially, yeah, she gave a shout out to Coach Ferentz, and kind of the same sentiment that you're saying of like, he took the high road. Like, yeah, you know what? I did something wrong. And that's the crazy thing about like recruitment infractions, is that you hear that and you're like, oh boy, what did they do? And you go to like the worst case scenario.
Right.
And then you hear a story like that and you're like, oh, for that? You got written up for that, you know? And so it was just really eye-opening in a lot of different ways. But it was just really cool of her to share that story. And again, that's probably not one that she would have told while she was coaching. But now that she's retired, she can kind of open up. There's like 650 people in the room. And so this isn't a story that's like an inside scoop. She shared it with everybody there. But so I'm just kind of summarizing what she said. But I just thought that was really interesting. So
especially with all the changing rules now with recruiting.
Yeah, there's so many.
Comparatively speaking. There's a lot of instances where I think coaches would take the low road.
Of course.
Especially nowadays, you know,
I'm
trying to
look
good
names.
for recruits and all that kind of stuff. But it's really cool to see that. And then just how that filters to the rest of the team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, owning up to your mistakes. Do you respect the guy more? Do you respect him less? I would bet to say that most of them are going to respect him more. That when you're self-aware of your mistakes, not only that, but then you can figure out how to not do that again.
Yeah.
Because you're aware of it.
But it is one of the best examples that you can give a group of young men
Absolutely.
that are looking to follow you and look up to you and all the things. And so it is, it's cool to see. Anything else?
I think we're just ready for the interview.
But
now.
we'll miss him on Saturday because I'll miss the KF scowl before they come out of the tunnel and when he does to get everybody going.
The little note on his thigh.
Wow. I'm actually a little more sentimental than I thought it would be about it. No,
I feel terrible for him.
Really thinking about it, I'm like, how consistent that has been since 1999. And now it's not gonna be there. It's just really interesting. I didn't know I felt that way. I hadn't really actually thought about it.
Between this and the gambling, Iowa's just been getting hammered.
No. Nelson Brands is coming back.
I did see that.
Speaking of gambling, that's exciting.
Good time.
I hope he comes back with a vengeance.
I'm sure he's a brand. I'm sure he will.
Exciting. Okay, well, we are going to move into our interview. And this is a really special interview for Matt specifically and for me because obviously Matt coming to Iowa was the reason that we met. But Coach Woods was the reason that Matt got recruited to Iowa. So yeah, this conversation was super special to him and super special to the both of us. So we can't wait for you to hear it. We will be right back with that conversation. Need a new roof, gutter, or siding in Eastern Iowa? Call JB Roofing and Construction, the local and reliable roofer with over 20 years of experience. They do one roof at a time, unlike others who juggle multiple projects and cut corners. They also serve a 45-mile radius around Kelowna and help you with any insurance claims. Don't wait. Call 319-656-ROOF or visit their website, jbroofingkelowna.com for a free estimate. JB Roofing and Construction, the small-town roofer you can trust. Matt, did you know that Iowa City Tire does more than just tires?
Well, yeah. I mean, they've been servicing vehicles in the corridor for like 40 years.
Right. But did you really know that before someone had to tell you?
No.
Check out how they're doing things in a very different way at Iowa City Tire and Service, where service actually comes first.
The Appliance Barn offers a wide range of high-quality appliances at unbeatable prices.
Whether you're in the market for a new refrigerator, dishwasher, or washing machine, they've got you covered.
They also have a delivery and setup department to ensure your appliances get delivered and installed quickly. To find out more, visit appliancebarn.com.
All right, Talkin' Hawks fans, this is our second ever coach on the podcast. Everyone, please welcome from the Hawkeye football team, LeVar Woods. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I felt weird calling you LeVar. I should just say Coach Woods. But
I didn't know you had a first name until we got you on the pod.
My first name is Coach.
Right.
There it is.
To you.
Right.
Is this your first ever podcast? Like recently?
No, not first ever podcast.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah. But like
actually,
years.
live podcast with like a microphone in my face. Like, yeah, I think it is.
Dang.
It's not like a Zoom. I mean, like this is a lot more. I don't
very,
want
very intimate setting. Yeah.
Yeah. As opposed to like Zoom where you can just like hit mute on accident, all the other stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay. So with our student athletes, and we had Jan Jensen on here.
Okay. Wait, I'm following Jan Jensen?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. It's over.
Well, yeah, she set the bar pretty high. So.
She always does. She always does.
To be expected. But anyway, so with everybody, we just kind of start like at the beginning. Like we don't want to just do X's and O's. We don't want to cover all the same stuff that everybody else does. We really want to get to know you as a person.
Okay.
So like with Jan and our student athletes, we go like all the way back. Like what was it like when you were a kid? What was it like growing up?
all the way back, if you can remember that stuff, Coach.
You guys didn't prep me with these questions.
Oh, sorry. We should have sent it over to your assistant. No.
Wait, I have an assistant?
The driver that dropped you off.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, just tell me about it. Where'd you grow up? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. My parents were both in the Navy. They split up, and so my mom took my sister and I moved to Northwest Iowa initially. Actually, to move to Sioux Falls, South Dakota initially.
Ayo.
Yeah, Ayo, South Dakota. And so we moved up there, and then eventually moved just across the border into a little community called West Lyon. So it's the west part of Lyon County, as far north and west as you can be in the state, just south of Brandon, South Dakota.
Another AO.
Yeah, another AO. So that's where I grew up. Grew up there from first grade all the way through graduated high school there. My mom and sister live in Sioux Falls now. And so I grew up there. Had an opportunity to play football at the University of Iowa under Hayden Fry. So came here, moved to Iowa City. Felt like I was moving to Manhattan, New York. It was a very big city compared to where I grew up. And so came here, played football. Coach Ferentz came in, took over the program. And
you would have been like 98 then, or 90.
graduation, or what do you?
In college. So you played for both Fry.
Yeah, so
and
96
Sarah.
was my first year of college, which that's a long time ago. And then 2000 was my senior year. So I played 2 years under Coach Ferentz.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Norm Parker was my position coach. He's also our defensive coordinator at the time. Phil Parker was younger at the time.
Right.
So he was on the staff then as well.
And speaking of playing for Coach Ferentz in his first year, you were like a pretty big part of his very first win. Yes?
That's what some people may say.
I mean, this is
made one play in that game that helped us score. Scored on a blocked field goal that one of my best friends, Matt Bowen, blocked. I was very lazy. If you go watch the tape, which I hope you don't do, but it was very lazy effort on my part. And Matt had an extraordinary effort, and he blocked a field goal, and the ball lands right in my hands. And I saw it and took it, just ran the other way and scored a touchdown and helped us win and helped Coach get his first win here.
Wow.
at Iowa.
Was it a home game or away?
It was a home game.
And so what was the stadium like?
It was pretty cool. It was pretty awesome. And I scored actually so at that time the student section was in the other end, so that'd make it the northwest corner. And so that's where the touchdown was scored, and it was right in front of the student section. So it was pretty cool.
That's so fun. See, now I feel like we see a side of Coach Ferentz that's a little more emotional that we didn't see before. So in 99, he gets his very first win. Was that emotional Coach Ferentz, or did you not get to see that quite?
I don't know if I saw that side.
You didn't let that out
early on. No, I don't think any of us really saw that side of him early on. But
yeah,
it was a fun experience nonetheless, and a good play for me, memories, all those kind of things. My kids, there's a photo in our basement of that.
That's pretty cool.
And so the kids will ask about it from time to time.
And that's the grass field at that time too,
That's the
right?
grass field, yeah. Yeah, and the locker room was different. The locker room was in the northeast corner. Actually, you had to go up the stairs all the way to the concourse level at halftime.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Shag carpeting on the floor.
Yeah,
that's got to be some stinky shag
different environment for sure.
Huh. Interesting.
So I want to go back real quick. So you played with you played with another NFL guy at Westline, right?
Yeah.
With Kyle Vandenbosch?
A couple of them, actually, yeah.
Who were the other ones?
So there's a guy, so right below me, the grade below me was a guy named Kyle Vandenbosch. We were high school teammates, and then he went to Nebraska, I went to Iowa. He's actually a year younger than me.
Okay.
But he didn't redshirt and I did. And so we ended up being in the same draft class coming out. And then we played 6 years in the NFL together. He was the fullback and I was the tailback.
Wow.
And
that sounds like a scary small town team.
It was when I look back at the time, I had no idea, but when I look back, it's like, yeah, that's probably had to be pretty intimidating for kids.
Yes.
So it was him. And then the next year after, was a guy named, not Jared, Luke Vandersanden, who went to Iowa State and then bounced around the NFL a little bit. And then the year after him was a guy named Darren Notches, who got drafted to play baseball. And then he chose to play football and baseball at Stanford.
Wow.
So some dudes come out of Westline.
Yeah, there's, and I've said this before on record that there's probably the most decorated athlete out of my school at the time, was a young lady named Sherry Blauette, who was in the Paralympics. And she holds a bunch of records in the Paralympics, holds a record for the marathon. She actually chairs the Boston Marathon for Paralympians. And
my goodness.
Yeah, she's incredible, man. Like, and I like to talk about her because not many people talk about her very often, but very decorated, incredible human being.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, what other sports did you play in high school?
Played football, basketball, and track, and I wrestled for one day. One day.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I wrestled like in Pee Wee wrestling. Like you know, you should know. Growing up there, you're gonna wrestle at some point, whether you want to or not. But so did that all the way through Pee Wee, and then in freshman year, they made you decide whether you're gonna play basketball or wrestle, which I just learned last year. You actually didn't have to decide because who was Aaron Graves did both. He wrestled and played basketball.
My goodness.
He did that all in a season. I was always under the impression you had to choose. So I chose basketball because I was going to be the next Michael Jordan at the time. I'm not. him.
Same hairstyle.
Yeah, same haircut.
Jeez.
Same haircut. I appreciate that. But
Golly.
and then sophomore year, I wasn't playing varsity. And so the wrestling coach had convinced me, like, hey, you can play varsity if you come out here for wrestling. So partway through the season, I decided I was going to go to wrestling. And the basketball coach was not happy
I'm sure.
at all. But so I switched for one day. And then I came home that night and I was like, I'm never doing that again. So
That's hilarious.
So you basically got your equipment and you're like, you could just keep it.
yeah, got thrown around the mat about 10 times. Got home and I had to lose 8 pounds. I lost 4 in that practice. And my mom had spaghetti on the table for dinner when I got home. And that was my favorite as a child. I was like, nah, I'm done wrestling. That was it.
The spaghetti was the tipping point.
That was it.
That's hilarious. Track. What did you do for track?
So I did sprints and jumps or
Okay.
high jump and also threw discus.
Nice.
So no long jump though.
So we talked a lot. I mean, we talked to Jan about this too when we had her on, but you see a lot of kids like specializing super early now.
Mhm.
But like most of the student athletes, if not all of them that we've talked to, are like, I played everything.
Yeah.
Like I was involved in
And if they
multitude
do
of
pick one,
sports.
it's like junior year. They're like, all
Yeah.
right, now I'm going to focus or
Yeah.
maybe high school. But
So as a coach, when you're looking at prospective athletes, not to say specializing is bad, but when you see athletes that are like participating in multiple sports, is that something that stands out to you? Something you guys appreciate or like, or what's that?
For
look
sure.
like?
Like I would have a really hard time recruiting someone that just played football.
Mm.
One, it's hard to evaluate them because you can't go to their games because we're playing,
Right.
during that time. So you don't get to see them as an athlete. But also I think if you're competing year round, it makes you a better competitor, makes you a more skilled athlete, and you're able to do different things. But definitely that multi-sport athletes are what we typically look at, like young Matthew over here, football, basketball, track.
not
played-
basketball, but track.
You played
yeah.
basketball when you were young though, didn't you?
Yeah, and then I broke my wrist,
Broke
and
your
so
wrist,
I was
yeah.
out during
Yeah.
that time. But yeah, I
But-
think Coach Morgan came to more track meets than he did
More track meets?
football games.
Track is fun for us as coaches because it allows us to see a true one. It's during the recruiting window for us. Then two, it allows you to see a person's athleticism. Because you were long jump and 200, right? That's what you once stayed in, if I recall.
Long jump, triple jump were my main things. Then I helped out with different
Okay.
like medleys, spread medleys, or 4x1s.
Yeah, you helped out.
Yeah, helped out. I was on the
You
team.
lent your services.
Called in the reserves.
The jumps were more my thing, but yeah, I mean, any team aspect stuff was more
Yeah.
what I was about
Yeah.
on that kind of stuff. For those of you that don't know, Coach Woods helped recruit me. I owe him and Coach Morgan a lot to get me to the University of Iowa. But
Yeah, you owe us a lot. Just kidding.
but so now I want to talk about like you recruited me. So what's the recruiting process like? It sounded like you were one of the older guys in terms of like star talent coming out of West Lyon. So how did that pipeline start? Like how do you get recruited?
Man, let me tell you, it is so different now. So different. So like at the time, like you guys are too young to know this, but there was no internet. Okay, think about that. There was internet in my high school, and then one computer had it, and it was the one that you went to look up books in the library.
Oh my goodness.
So the internet didn't exist. So it wasn't like, hey, you just check someone's huddle or check someone's recruiting
Sure.
profile. It was all word of mouth. They used to use books and magazines and things like that. So you try to get on someone's list. So it's very different right now.
Was it like camps and stuff that would help you get there?
Yeah.
Or you basically
camps,
just had to get written about in the paper?
part of that. Yeah. Yeah. It's like
Wow.
word of mouth. Hey, so-and-so said this guy's this tall, that fast. I mean, that's kind of how it worked at the
Wow.
time. So
That's wild.
it's really, really strange when I sit and think about it. And you try to explain it to people who have only grown up in the cell phone era or the internet era.
Mhm.
They're like, that doesn't even make sense.
Mhm.
But it's true. That's how it worked. And so I owe it to a guy named Mark Hendrickson, who was the I believe tight ends coach at the time here at Iowa, and also Brett Bielema. Those two came up to my school, and Coach Hendrickson came up during a track meet. I remember. I know he came to my house a few times, but they came to recruit me to Iowa. And to think about it, like that's a 6-hour drive, some 5.5, 6-hour drive you're making, and
Right.
hopefully the kid turns out, like that. That's what it was
Sure.
like. Now I always say that, well, it helped that he had Kyle Vandenbosch there. It was a younger kid.
Mhm.
So there's 2 kids. And also in Kyle's class, a year younger than me, is a guy named RJ Meyer, who played at Iowa. Played linebacker at Iowa. He's a year younger than me. He went to Central Line, which is the rival school, just whatever, 15, 20 minutes away from my school. So at least there were, I think it made it worth his while to at least go up there. I think
you can see 3 kids instead of this.
Yeah, 3 instead of 1. And it sort of started, I think it sort of shocked him initially when he came up there, because there were some big kids, good athletes, but no one goes to Northwest Iowa unless you're going there for something. Right. It's not like you're traveling through. It's not a vacation destination necessarily, although Okoboji's,
I was going to say, it's right there.
It's an hour away. But so again, I owe a lot to Coach Hendrickson at the time for coming up there and believing in me and giving me an opportunity. And it took a while for him to figure it out. But at that age too, it's sort of like I didn't get recruited until going into semifinal game of my senior season.
Oh my goodness!
Like, think about that. That's my first offer. Like your senior year. So like the dynamics are so different now. We're offering kids in high school, or excuse me, as freshmen right now.
Right.
Like some schools will offer kids in junior high, which I think is crazy because they've never even played varsity football. But so dynamics have changed. The pace of recruiting has changed. Mm-hmm. All that stuff has changed.
Was there any other schools that had recruited you?
So Iowa State offered me first, and then fast forward a couple weeks, then University of Iowa offered. But other than that, it was those two. Nebraska flirted around for a little bit, and then they didn't offer until the Monday of signing week.
And they're always late to the party.
No, I mean, at that time, Nebraska was like the place. That was like Tom Osborne was like the Nick Saban.
Oh, sure. I got to think about timeline for all that stuff. Sure.
Yeah.
So then what made you pick Iowa?
So I took a visit to Iowa State, and it was okay. It wasn't my favorite at the time, but I know it was a good opportunity. Coach McCarney did a great job recruiting me. Coach Rose did a great job recruiting me. It just didn't always feel right. And then I came here. I said this on a different show one time about how I did not want to take a visit to Iowa because I was tired of the whole process. I just wanted to be done. And I told this story about how my mom, she was getting tired of me not making a decision. And she said, "I'm taking you down to Iowa. You're going to go. You need to have something to compare it to." And there was a snowstorm that hit. It took us 13 hours to get to Iowa City. And best decision I ever made is my mom literally drove us through. I remember the interstate being closed and my mom was driving us through the interstate. My sister and I are asleep in the back, like, covering our eyes, just praying to get here.
Oh my goodness.
But we got here and it was just a cool place. It was just different. It was different than the other place I'd been to. And it's just felt like the right place, felt like home.
I mean, that's dedication.
Yeah, and actually,
my mom's a champ, man. I'm telling you, like so South Dakota, right? So West River, East River. My mom every day would drive out West River, work, and then drive back.
My goodness,
like almost every day. So she was a dialysis technician, and so her job was she would go on reservations and fix dialysis machines.
My goodness.
So when they would go down, they'd call her. She'd fly. She'd drive out. Say fly, she'd hammer down on the gas, go out, fix them, and come back. And she never missed a game that I had, in a football game. She was always there. She would literally like go all the way out. Hey, I got to fix these machines, but I'll be back in time tonight for the game. So She did the same thing in college, like driving to Western Nebraska and then drive back across to Penn State.
Oh my gosh.
So She's pretty dedicated.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
To have that kind of support system is awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome for sure.
So I want to go back to Matt's recruiting process because I don't know.
Yes, this will be fun.
I just was curious if you knew that Matt almost didn't make it to your camp.
Really?
He almost
to the Iowa
didn't
camp?
live to make it to your camp. He almost died.
No, to your Okoboji
camp in Okoboji. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I need to hear this.
It coincides with the YMCA, right?
Okay.
At the time, like because
the YMCA in Okoboji.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like we that went to your Coach Woods camp had to do the YMCA stuff. I am not a strong swimmer, and you had to tread water for 90 seconds. So
wait,
a minute and a half
stay at the
to stay
at Camp
there.
Foster.
Yes, at Camp Foster. There we go.
Yeah.
So you had to swim laps, nailed that.
Yeah.
Got it done. Then you had tread water
you
for
had
90
to do this
seconds.
at Camp Foster? Like when are you serious?
But I showed up.
I had no idea. that was just lodging.
Oh, no.
To me, that was lodging where the campers would stay. I had no idea you had to like.
We had to do the whole thing. And unless I was in the wrong line,
You had to
I'm
be
pretty
battle
sure.
tested.
So I had to tread water for 90 seconds. And the last 7 seconds, my lips were the only thing above the water. I thought I was going down. I was looking at the lifeguard like, you got to get me.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I've never heard this story ever. Never knew it. Never heard the story.
Yeah, to this day, I can't tread water like that.
Yeah, I guess not. You have too much muscle, man. You're too dense.
That's what it was back in high school.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other thing is,
You didn't have to bring it up.
It was funny, but how much did you weigh coming out of high school?
Not very much.
Not you, him.
No,
yeah,
I know.
you know.
Not very much.
I was like 155. I was 162 when I got to Iowa.
I was going to
Okay.
say 165.
So 162-pound kid from small town Brandon, South Dakota.
Mhm.
You guys have a knack of just finding these guys. Why? How? I mean, how did you pick him out of a group? And I don't mean to just speak to him like to just,
But
brag on
Josie
his
was a
skills
2-star.
and-
Desmond was
Yeah.
a 2-star.
Right. And then you see these guys their senior year and it's like, oh my goodness. Like how did you even find that diamond in the rough that
Yeah.
maybe nobody else even expected?
I can tell you his story, or at least parts, my vision of this story. Okay, and it's something that has always stuck with me. We used to have a camp at the rec fields. You guys know where the rec fields are, and over kind of by the west part of campus,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Kind of by the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So they used to have grass rec fields there. We used to have these huge camps, 3-day
Mhm.
camps. People stayed over. How long did you stay?
No, we were there for 3 days, but I
3.
came every year.
Yeah, so 3-day camp, and we used to play this game called Ultimate Football. I think is what it's called.
Razzle Dazzle.
Razzle Dazzle. Thank you, Razzle Dazzle. And so there was a kid, and I'm just starting. I'm in recruiting at the time, and I'm looking at a list. There's a kid from like somewhere in Detroit or somewhere in Michigan that I'm looking for. I mean, okay, so there's teams over there, this field, that field. I'm trying to find him, and I'm looking all over. I'm looking through my paper, and I'm standing by this field, and all of a sudden, like I see this shadow, and this dude jumps up and snags this ball right in front of me, lands right in front of me, comes flying out of bounds right in front of me. So I go over and like help pick him up. It's like, geez, man, are you all right? I pick him up, and I see this logo that I recognized. It says Brandon Valley, or says the Lynx, or whatever. Black and red is what I remember. I saw it, and I was like, wait, where are you from? It's like, I'm from Brandon, South Dakota. Get out of here, man. You're from Brandon, South Dakota. I was like, I know exactly where that is. So the rest of the time I'm following him. I still can't find this other kid, but he makes this huge play in front of me. So now I'm intrigued, and I'm watching him. He just keeps competing and keeps making plays, whether you're at receiver or at safety, you snag a ball here. You were just a competitor, dude, at that camp. And so then I'm intrigued. Then I just follow him to the next place. I'm like, hey man, what are you doing next week? he's like, I don't know why. I said, well, I'm having a camp up in Okoboji. Like you should come. And so then he comes to that camp and almost dies, apparently. Didn't know that.
Didn't make it.
Didn't know that. But it sort of speaks to, I'm getting to a point here where he came to that camp. It was a 3-day camp, if I recall.
Mhm.
You know better because you survived
Mhm.
to make it. But came to that camp, and that camp was, a lot of the coaches were guys that played at Iowa or played in the NFL.
Mhm.
And he kept doing the same thing over and over. And there were 2 guys that in particular that really, really were drawn to you. A guy named Matt Bowen, who played safety here at Iowa.
So I remember him doing all the DB drills
Yeah.
with us.
He thought you were like a younger version of him. And another guy named Rich Cody, who just won a Super Bowl with the say Los Angeles Rams, the St. Louis Rams at the time. They both played safety, and they were in love with him. They're like, man, this kid can play. Like, if you guys are going to do anything at Iowa, Rich played at Texas A&M. He's like, I'm going to tell my people at Texas A&M about this kid. But like, he's feisty, he's competitive, whether he's a safety or whether he's a receiver, the guy just plays. And so we were like, Coach Ferentz was there too, because his son Steve was at the 7-on-7 camp. And so we're all telling Coach, like, Coach, come watch this kid. Coach is like on vacation. He's trying to just relax, trying to be a dad. And we're like shoving him a recruit right in his face. but you were young because you were going to be a junior, if I recall.
Yeah, I was
right?
I was real young when I went there.
And so it just put him on our list. And then we turned it over to Coach Morgan, who had recruited the area at the time. And then Coach Morgan became intrigued. He asked more questions. Coach Garrow who was your coach at the time. Like he was in his ear all the time, asking him questions, came and watched you in track, saw that you could jump, you could run. If I can't remember, I think you guys, if I recall, I don't remember the exact play, but ended up losing the state championship. Sorry to bring this up.
Yeah. No.
Is it Nate Geary?
Yeah.
At from from Sioux Falls, Washington.
Then he ended up going to Nebraska.
He went to Nebraska. But we played hardball with this guy forever. We couldn't decide, are we going to take him or are we not? We're going to offer him a scholarship. What position? Is it receiver? Is it safety? But we knew he was a competitor. So then fast forward senior year, it gets down to it, and we end up extending a gray shirt offer to him, which at that time, gray shirt meant that you came in your first semester, not on scholarship. And then once January happened and the scholarships rolled over, then he would go on scholarship.
Okay.
That didn't happen, did it?
No, that all changed. I'm pretty sure it was 5 days before camp. Coach Ferentz called me. It was like, hey, we got an opening if you can be here for camp. And I was like, yeah, I'll be there, which is probably the easiest thing for my mom to handle. Because if my mom had to think about it, she would have been a wreck. But she was like, I got to get all this stuff. She went and bought me new socks and like all this kind of stuff to make sure I was ready for camp.
You guys are probably going to go on a family vacation.
I'm just working on painting in the summer, just chilling. And then,
Crazy.
Going back to what the original question you asked. So you talk about, like, he has a lot of characteristics of guys that we recruit, guys that are multi-sport athletes, guys that you were painting, had a different job, right? You're hustling, you're working, you're scrapping all through your high school experience. Your coach said good things about your basketball coach, your track coach. You did it live in front of us. I'll never forget that, man. I'm telling you, you caught the ball like right in front of me, flew right in front of me. I had to like avoid him, not getting taken out. And then, but he was just competitive the whole time. Like that, those are the things that we look for. And that's kind of how we recruit. That's how we've been able to find guys at diamonds in the rough like that. Like you were talking about Josie. Sam LaPorta is a recent one.
Oh yeah.
There's two things. Sam LaPorta was, man, AJ Epinesa's high school coach, who's also Kate Martin's father. Okay. He was adamant about Sam LaPorta, absolutely adamant about him. And one time he said to me, don't be an idiot like these other schools that drive right by, or these other schools that Sam lived in Highland, Illinois. Don't be an idiot like these other coaches and just overlook this guy. And I was like, yeah. And so we had a need because both Noah and TJ entered the draft that year. We had a need, and sure enough, go back. And I had tracked Sam all the way through that year, and he was just super competitive. And we were always looking at the top, the St. Louis Dispatch. At the time I had the St. Louis area, but St. Louis Dispatch they always had the stat leaders each weekend, and then overall the stat leaders. And Sam LaPorta was always at the top, even though he didn't play. There's a kid going to LSU, a kid going to Miami, a kid going to Alabama, a receiver. None of them were as good as Sam LaPorta. Didn't have the same numbers that Sam did. So people kept trying to overlook Sam. And then all of a sudden you really get him on a football field and you realize like, no, this kid is the best. So that's a whole nother story because I almost screwed that one up. Because actually I'll tell it. So Sam LaPorta, we had a need. We went back to try to get Sam. Sam had come to our camp and he had a good camp. It wasn't like overly great. His mom was still mad to this day about how we ruined their family vacation. Do you know this story?
No, okay, I don't.
His parents are the best, man. Joe and Stacy, they're awesome. And Sam had 3 sisters. One of them was going to school, I think at Fordham, if I recall. And so they took a family trip to go visit his sister out in Fordham. She's playing basketball for Fordham University. And Sam's going to be a senior in high school. So he's, just finishing up summer after junior year. And we have our last camp. It's the last opportunity for us to evaluate a kid. Like, hey, man, if you don't get to this camp, like, we're not going to recruit you. We can't even evaluate you. And so they go out to this vacation. His high school coach calls him out there and says, hey, you got to get to the camp at Iowa. Like, they're adamant. They really like you. They really want you. He comes to camp. They cut their vacation short. Probably cost him like $1,000 to redo tickets and everything. He comes to camp all tired, and he has a good camp. but not enough to like blow people away and for us to offer him. Well, so we watched it the rest of his senior year. And as I mentioned, I kept following him in the paper and seeing his statistics, all those kind of things. Mom's still mad because they ruined vacation and we didn't even offer him at the time. And, but, you know, kept sticking with him and kept following him and like, hey, we really like you. Well, we have a need. So, all right, the last ditch effort, I'm going to go see this kid one more time. You know, keep trying to bring him to the table. I like the kid. Matt Martin will not shut up about him. Matt's never led me astray in recruiting ever, on any kid. So like, I'm going to go watch this kid play basketball. I call this high school coach. Hey, what time does he play? He plays at 7:00 and where's it at? It's at Highland. Okay, great. Call, Sam. Hey, I'm going to be at your game. I'm probably not going to get there till the second half, but I'm going to be at your game. Cause I was off recruiting some other kids and I was looking at a couple kickers and punters in Wisconsin. And so I'm leaving Wisconsin, driving down what I think is to go to Highland, Illinois. Well, the GPS is set for Highland, Indiana. So I come out of Chicago, I'm going to Highland, Indiana. I'm like, why is it taking me like Gary and like where am I going? Like, this makes no sense. And so I look at it again, you know, you get on the phone, you're not even paying attention, you're just following the pink line and going wherever it goes. And all of a sudden I realize I'm going the wrong way. And I'm like, oh my God, I flip it around, get over there, I punch it back in. It's like, dude, I'm going to miss this game. I'm not going to see this kid at all. And sure enough, I call the coach like, hey coach, I'm really sorry I missed the game. Do you think there's any chance of Sam? Call Sam. He's not answering. First of all, he's not a big phone guy. He's not much on Twitter. He'll tell you, he'll admit, like, I turned my phone off. I was so mad at you, coach. But I said, hey, here's the deal. Tomorrow, I'm going to be at your school. I'm going to come to your practice. I'm going to watch you. I'm going to evaluate you. I'm going to send the film back. And so he's like, all right. And so I showed up there at practice, and Sam, again, multi-sport athlete, football, basketball, track. Sam goes, I'm like, hey man, can you dunk? And he's like, if you know Sam at all, he's like, you know, kind of quiet and humble. Right. And he's like, yeah, I can dunk. So I'm like, prove it. He goes up there and rips off this back reverse dunk, 2-hand dunk. I'm like, whoa, like, hold on. I'm fumbling for my phone. Like, hold on. Do that again. Comes up there, bang. And the ball like shoots off the back of the rim, but he was up there, man. And so I'm like, okay, do it one more time. So he goes back up there and comes up with just this windmill dunk. And boom, hammers it right in front of me. And I'm like, I got it on video, took a picture of him next to him and like, you know, size reference, all that stuff. And I sent it back. It's like, man, and we look at the camp numbers. It compares to TJ, compares to Sean Byer, guys that we had in camp. And like, man, maybe Sam, you know, should be playing here for us. And, you know, fast forward again, tried to get this kid on a visit. He wouldn't come to visit.
Oh man,
he's mad. Really he's mad. His mom's mad still, you know, about everything. But eventually Matt Martin, again, Kate's father, ends up helping push this thing through to get him to come visit at Iowa. And the rest is history. He comes to Iowa and, you know, plays as a freshman and ends up being one of the best players we ever had. So
went from extremely bitter to,
to extremely bitter to that.
Golly.
On the flip side, Josie Jewell, who you referenced earlier, right. Josie Jewell was from Decorah, but Northeast Iowa, 4-sport athlete, never came off the field. Well, I'm comparing him. I was young coach at the time in 2012. And I'm comparing him to a couple of kids I'm recruiting in Dallas and in Kansas City who were one-way players. They only played linebacker. I'm the linebacker coach at the time. Made a huge mistake because I didn't think Josie, when I watched his tapes, like, oh, look at him. He's loafing here. Oh, look at this. Watch this other guy. This other guy's playing 20 snaps a game, or Josie's playing 120 snaps a game. And the other part is Josie, we couldn't ever get him to come visit us at Iowa. He wouldn't come to camp, and he wouldn't come. That doesn't shock me. It doesn't shock you now that you know him, right? Now that you know him. But so, and he and I have had this conversation where I basically screwed it up, and Coach Morgan came in and saved the day. Dang. Coach Ferentz called me. He's like, "Hey, we're going to take Josie Jewell, and if he doesn't work out at linebacker, we'll play him at fullback. But I want you to know we're going to take him." I said, "Okay, well, you know, this is your team.
Your call, right?
Yeah, it's your call. You decide." And best thing Coach Ferentz ever did. But at the time, I was young as a coach. My evaluation, I was comparing him to guys who were one-way players and guys who were probably only football players, football only guys. Whereas Josie was a 4-sport athlete, never came off the field in football. Like the guy was a machine. So if you want to know how recruiting goes, that's how it goes. But I promise you, I'll never make that mistake again. Like with Josie Jewell, and same thing with Sam. Like, sometimes kids develop and kids change and they grow and they're better. You're supposed to be better as a senior than you are as a freshman or sophomore or junior. So kids, you have to be able to project a little bit. And what's he going to be like as a senior in high school? What's he going to be like when he gets to us? That is where it goes back to what you were asking about multi-sport athletes. Because you can see a kid may be really good in track because it's easier to be better in track early than it is in football, right? Football, it takes some skill, it takes size, it takes girth, strength, all that kind of stuff. You have to project a little bit. Some kid may be really skilled in basketball, can shoot, can jump, can dunk, but maybe isn't quite ready in football. You have to project some of that stuff.
So it almost gives you an idea of what the potential could be just based on being able to see them in other sports. It's kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah, for sure. Plus you can see a kid, again, listen, if you're an athlete, you're a competitor, right? And you can tell a kid's competitiveness based off other sports sometimes. Like, again, I'll go back to you, long jump and triple jump. Like those are your events. I never actually got to see you live, but I remember Coach Morgan talking about you and like how he won this, he won that, and this is a big meet. That was one thing he always mentioned was he wanted to see you in in the conference track meet or against the best rivals, the bitter rival, not against some team you're going to beat by 50 points.
And how do you, so like, that's even a better point of like, when you're recruiting smaller schools that some of us, like we did beat up on some teams like 70-14. Sure. Like, how do you evaluate that? Like how tough is that to see? Okay.
So this comes
or do you just throw it out and go to a different game?
Okay. So I'll go back to what you asked before about, like recruiting, right? And like, how do we evaluate? So we recruit a little bit different in Iowa. We still have areas. So we have an area, again, I have South Dakota, Western Iowa, South Dakota, Nebraska. Now I have Texas and Arizona. I had St. Louis at the time. One time I had Kansas City. But if you know the area and you know the coaches, it's like talking about Matt Martin. Like I knew the guy, or I knew him, and he knew me. We had a good relationship, so he was going to tell me the truth. Whereas sometimes you can go into an area, an outlying area, and you don't have a relationship with that coach, they're going to tell you all the great things about the kid and not tell you any of the other stuff about him. So going back to kind of like now, if you know the area and you know the competition, like I know the good schools in South Dakota, the best programs. So I'm not going to name any names right now, but if you're
Brandon Valley, yeah.
Okay. That's one of them. That's one of them. But if you're blowing someone out that maybe I'll let you say a team that you're going to blow out.
Mitchell. Yeah. We won 70-14 my senior year. I can say that.
I mean, they're probably on the rise. Okay. They're probably on the rise now, but then if you know that, then you have to kind of gauge that, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
What I'm saying. Like I know in Northwest Iowa, if the kid goes to West Lyon or he goes to Central Lyon, I know who's coaching them, how they're being coached. I know who they're playing against. Whereas if you're just flying in from like Miami to go recruit, this kid's 6'5" and 240 pounds, but you don't know anything about him or know the area. It's hard. And a lot of kids in that area, I think, get overlooked or have for years been overlooked because one, it's remote. Two, it's hard to get to, again, remote. And again, you may not know, like, he's playing, again, Josie Jewell, he's playing 4 sports. Like, God, this kid's he's not hustling this play. He's taking that play off. He's doing this, doing that. Where you just have to know the area is really, really what I'm getting at. And it gives you a much better idea of what a kid's going to be like.
One thing that I'm also hearing too is how much, and sorry, I'm kind of commandeering this, how important relationships are. And like, I think about how many relationships you have to have on a consistent basis, not only with all the coaches that you're recruiting, but obviously your own coaching staff. And then you got your own players and then anybody that's coming in from the transfer portal. Like we don't have to go down that path necessarily, but it's just crazy to me how many relationships like you have to keep and maintain.
I would agree. I mean, relationships and recruiting, they go hand in hand. And if you have a relationship, I'll go back to Matt Martin, like had a good relationship with him. If I didn't, he wouldn't have told me all this. He wouldn't have been so persistent about Sam or AJ Epinesa, right? And it wouldn't have helped. There's some crazy AJ Epinesa recruiting stories that I'll save for off this mic. But,
Sure.
But things that Matt did to make sure that, like, hey, he's committed to Iowa. He's going to stay at Iowa. We're not letting you come in here. Right. So those are relationships that you've got to develop and you've got to hone and you've got to maintain for a long time. And that's a key part of recruiting.
So then how do you garner that? I mean, obviously you played at Iowa and you played 7 years in the league, right? So, and then you went right into coaching.
For the most part, yeah. In some aspect at Iowa.
So what do you mean?
I played golf for 9 months in Arizona. And then my wife got tired of that, believe it or not. And then we moved to Iowa and then sort of started getting into administration and recruiting. But I didn't coach so that'd make 4 years. I was doing that before I became a coach.
What was the administration stuff that you did?
The title was called administrative assistant at the time. It was basically like anything no one else wanted to do.
So the dirty work, essentially. Yeah. Okay. And then you get into coaching and then you have to build all those relationships. How different was it playing for KF and then being able to coach with KF?
That's a great question. So
obviously you got the younger KF and then you're coaching with, I'm not going to say the older, but the seasoned KF.
Yeah. So I would say this, it helps you understand what the program is like and what he wants. Because I saw the program, what you see now is a program in year 25 or 6.
Right.
I saw it in ground zero. And let me tell you, ground zero looks nothing like what it is right now. It's crazy. Just from, you talk about the staff, the nutrition, the building, the way things go, the wins, the losses are way different now. But I think it helps me understand what he wants and what his vision is. I think we all share that vision. Because if you've played for him, you understand what he wants. But I also think that having that opportunity and being coached by someone and being molded by someone as a player and then eventually as a coach, it definitely helps in the profession right now.
Jan Jensen had played 1 year under Lisa Bluter before joining her staff. And it was kind of a similar thing of like, you were there for the foundation of what KF was trying to do. And now you're able to continue to stack on it. I think that's a really cool thing.
It's a lot of fun. And like I tell people this, I feel like I've seen Coach, I don't want to pretend to know all of his business, but I feel like I've seen him at probably his best day professionally and maybe one of his worst days professionally. And same thing personally, best and worst, that I think you see all sides of a person in that regard. And that's what draws me to him, because I feel like there's no better role model as a coach, no better role model as a father. There's no better person to be around than Kirk Ferentz. I remember Norm Parker in 1999 told us, hey, if you ever need to know what it's like to be a man or where you should look at Kirk Ferentz. And I've been looking at Kirk Ferentz since that day. And Norm's another one that, he wouldn't, if he was here, he wouldn't give himself credit for that. But man, he was a great example to follow. Great teacher, great example to follow, a man's man, if you will. But he would tell all of us when we were young, like, look at Kirk Ferentz, follow Kirk Ferentz. And we've all been doing that since. And you're one of the guys. I mean, there's countless guys, 1,000 guys have come through and had a chance to do that.
It's so cool to know that it's done a different way.
Yeah.
Like the true relationship of trying to like, and it's not necessarily like you're going to eat dinner with KF every night. Like that's not the goal.
No.
But the fact that, I mean, everybody we've had on the podcast, I can speak from my own experience and the guys I played with. You always leave the program as a better person than when you 100%. Showed up. Like you care about the wins. He has to.
Yeah.
But that's not the main goal, if that makes sense.
Well, and do you remember he says every time he talks, what's the first goal he wants you to have?
You want to be a good father, good son.
Good father, good son. But he always talks about graduating.
Oh,
not many coaches talk about that. I mean, he's the first thing he says at the beginning of spring and the beginning of fall camp, like program goal number 1 is to graduate.
That's true.
And we're talking about football. Like we're not talking about school, but to him, like all that stuff matters. So you go back to ground zero at Iowa football. I'm seeing some of this a little bit with my own son, like going through his high school experience and what you're trying to teach a young kid, like how to operate in football. And Kirk, I remember, said, he didn't care like getting to the football, to practice, the games. It was how you tied your shoes. If I said hand behind the line, it's behind the line. If I said be here at 7, it's you're here ready to go at 7, not at 7:01 or 2 or whatever. It's like all that stuff that leads up to, if you can do all those things, then okay, now we can start talking about you playing football. And that to me is what's made him so successful. It's what's made the program successful. It's what he is really not wavered off. Now he's changed and morphed and adjusted.
You kind of have to.
You have to, right? And grown. But the things that he believes in. And that to me, I think the guys that have played for Coach and that have coached for him or been around him in some capacity in the profession, that those are things that we all stick to, and we all have some of the same traits, and it's really, really kind of weird. But I also believe it serves you as a father, as a husband, and as an employee down the road, you know. So.
Yeah, and I can see that right here. But it actually, when you're we're talking about recruiting and then talking about Coach Ferentz and relationships, and I had this story popped into my head that was like a culmination of all of that. Just over the weekend, I was talking to a woman that her husband played in it would have been 2002 to 2006, somewhere in that era. And she's like, yeah, he had all these offers from all these different places. And, he's considering this, that, and the other thing. But the tipping point was Coach Ferentz was the only coach that came to his mom's house, ate his mom's dinner, and asked for seconds.
Really?
And that is the reason he picked Iowa.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I'll say the name afterward.
Yeah.
I don't want to share a story without permission.
No, yeah.
But yeah, isn't that insane?
But it totally sounds like Coach, totally makes sense.
Yep.
But that's the kind of guy he is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
So cool. And every student athlete we have on, it's like there's 2 consistent answers. We say, why'd you pick Iowa? And it's always, it felt like home, which you gave the same exact answer, which is crazy. And the second one is we like to ask, what kind of things do you learn from Coach Ferentz or, something along those lines. And it's always, well, he cares about you as a person. Yeah. And it's consistent.
Everyone.
Always that. And we've had 2 women's basketball players on as well. Huh. And that was the thing about Coach Bluter too, is she cares about you more as a person than she does as a player. So it's just really cool to see. So on the topic of recruiting now you're kind of wrestling with, okay, so before you take a guy like Matt Vanderberg, Josie Jewell, and it's like they're chasing opportunity, right? And it's like, well, cool, we can give you opportunity and then we'll build you to what you need to be. Now you've got this element of, you want opportunity, but you also want a paycheck, right? How do you navigate that without getting into the weeds too much? Because I don't want to put you on too much on the spot. Yeah, so it's just a tough thing to navigate now with the recruiting world. It's just the reality of what it is. So what does that look like for you guys?
This is my take. Okay. I'm speaking for LeVar Woods, just so we're all on the same page. I feel like it hasn't changed that much.
Really?
Like, I feel like when we go out and recruit, there's only certain people have certain profiles, certain types, right? Like, you want them to be big, fast, strong. You want to be the best athlete. In my world, you want them to kick the ball far, be the best snapper, punter, whatever. But they have certain characteristics and they have certain things that they believe in, and that are going to lend me to believe that they're going to be successful on the field. So what I mean by that is, I don't think Coach Ferentz, I don't want to speak for him, but I don't think he's going to venture too far off that path of what he believes in and who he believes in, and do they fit this style? Now, are there guys that maybe could be better athletes, or that like maybe they can throw farther, run faster, jump high, whatever? Like, they're out there. But over the course of time, and it's been proven, not 2 years or even 10 years, it's 25, 26 years that when you get the right guy and you match them up with the right environment, like they take off. So to me, I don't know if I see it venturing too far off of that, and once I'm a firm believer of this, I'm a firm believer in time and place, and there's a place for everything and there's a time for everything. And I'm going to get on my old man dad soapbox that I probably have said at my house before, but that there's a time and place for you to be compensated and have a bunch of money. When you're 17 years old, 18 years old, and you don't know what to do with it, like, that's not the time or place. Your focus should be on being the best student you can be, being the best athlete you can be, and learning and growing, developing as a human being. Like, that's what your focus should be on. It shouldn't be on like, well, I got to get to this interview. I got to get to this, paycheck, and you worried about that, then you don't develop. To me, that's what it's all about. And then, okay, once you're at that point and you're mature enough, you can handle it, then here's a bunch of money. Now you're going to have to still deal with it. More money, more problems, right? And the old adage like that money makes you more of what you already are. If you're immature and we dump a bunch of money on you and give you a bunch of money, it's not gonna end up well for you. But if we can mature you and grow you and develop you, and then here's a bunch of money, man, those are the people that have great lives, and they transition well out of football and into grown man, or I shouldn't say grown man, grown up life. And then you have well-adjusted citizens, people that are good for the community. That to me is what it should really be like.
I'm so happy to hear that, first of all. But second of all, it kind of goes back to, and I learned this at Iowa, but also my current boss kind of made this point when I first started in real estate, that you provide the value and then the money will come with it.
Sure.
Like if you're chasing the money now, you're going to stay chasing the money.
Yeah.
But if you provide the value and do what you're supposed to do, people are going to recognize it and you'll be compensated at that time.
Yeah, for sure. And you've actually done this and not even probably known it from your time at Iowa as a student athlete, right? Like think about how you came in. Think about it. Think about how you came. And we haven't talked about this or didn't plan on talking about this, but how did you come in the program?
Lean and underprepared.
Underprepared. You worked your butt off. Okay. You provided the value. And then what happened?
Yeah. And then I played.
Then all of a sudden, boom, it took off. So like it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. It's just a microcosm of life. So we're constantly trying to find people like that, going back to the recruiting question you asked initially.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about Iowa too, just from somebody that grew up in Iowa my whole life. Yeah. And I think a lot of fans too, just seeing that side of it, they get a little scared of the NIL and the this and the compensation, right? It's like, well, what happened to our grassroots program? What's going to happen to it? What's going to happen to the developmental side? What's going to happen to Matt Vanderberg's, Josie Jules? Where are they going to come from? It's like so great to hear. And I don't know how much doubt there really was, but just great to hear, right from the front that's not going away.
Yeah, I don't. As long as Coach Ferentz is the head coach, I don't see that going away.
Yeah,
I don't see it. But
and I think a guy, and I bring him up a lot on the podcast. He was on the podcast, Jay Higgins. Like he's the guy that embodies that. Yeah, he sat behind Jack Campbell for 4 years or 3 years. And then gets an opportunity and leads the nation in tackles. Yeah. When he could have left and said, I'm stuck behind a guy who's going to be a first round pick. I'm going to leave and go play. Yeah. Instead, he waited his turn and now he's balling. And now I think he's the top rated guy on NCAA 25 or something like that. I think he and one other guy are like 94 overall. It's crazy.
Well, but then you know it's real. If it's on the game, then you know it's real.
They got a lot of people back there working on overall. Yeah. But I mean like that, but to wait your turn and then lead the nation, that doesn't just happen.
No, that's true.
That's providing the value day in and day out and learning from the older guys. And the older guys making sure that the young guys can continue to push the program forward.
So it's going to go back to what I said before. Okay. When are you supposed to be your best?
In your senior year.
Junior, senior year, right? Like, think about it. When you come in at 17, 18 years old, if you're better than you are at 20, 21, 22, then something's wrong. Then you weren't developed. You weren't coached right. You didn't mature at the correct rate. Right. So going back to Jay, to me, like you're going to be better as a fifth year senior or a fourth year senior, or in some people's case, a 6th year senior than you are as a freshman or sophomore. Right. If you're not, you're at the wrong place, and you're definitely not in Iowa, because that's what we're trying to do. That's our focal point. But to me, like that's what it's all about. If you want to be better, you're at the end than at the beginning.
We'll kind of go back to like the trajectory of your career. So I think we were kind of like in the college phase, sort of talked about that. Did I see somewhere that you majored in elementary education?
I did, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Does that help with coaching?
I think so, yeah. I always say
we're a bunch of toddlers.
Yeah. No, that's funny. So I wanted to be a elementary school teacher and a high school coach, like my high school coach. That's what I wanted to do, Coach Rosaboom. But I always tell people that I teach bigger kids, and I what do you teach? I teach football. Like that's all it is to me, So, but yeah, I was going to be an elementary ed teacher. I was actually telling my youngest daughter this the other day. She's like, "Wait, so what were you going to teach?" I said, 5th and 6th grade. So you would have been my teacher.
Oh, that's so cute. We missed the mark on that one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So then after that, make your way into the NFL. Drafted. Where were you at?
No, it's not drafted. It's undrafted.
Not drafted. Yeah. Undrafted. All right.
So again, goes back to, I promise you, I swear on this, that if I didn't have Norm Parker and Coach Ferentz and Coach Doyle at the time, if I didn't have those guys in my development, I would not have made an NFL team.
Wow.
Like I can promise you that, promise you that. One, physically, two, knowledge base. And then the third is like understanding how to operate and how to get there and stay there.
Was it Tennessee or Detroit that you ended up going to first?
I went to Arizona first. So I played with Kyle Vanderberg 4 years in Arizona.
Okay.
And then Arizona from there to Chicago, which got cut from Chicago. And then to Detroit for 2 years, and then Tennessee for 2.
Dang.
So journeyman is what they call that. Not a journeyman.
7 years.
Yeah.
That's right.
Did you meet your wife in college or after college?
In college, yeah.
In college.
Yeah, we got married right after college, like legitimately 2 weeks, 3 weeks after graduation. Kind of like someone else I know.
Yeah.
Did you have to plan any of the wedding, or did she handle the whole thing?
I doubt I planned much of anything.
I didn't do it. I didn't do anything.
No.
I made sure the food was good and that was it.
So I hope I can say this. This is a shout out to Brock Sherman and Crystal. Brock is my assistant I work with at Iowa, and his fiance Crystal, they're getting married tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And my wife and I, we're so excited for them. Our family, we're so excited for them. But, we were talking about, kind of the couple of weeks right before the wedding, like everyone's stressed out and, what are you working on? What'd you plan? I was like, I don't remember planning anything. I just remember showing up and being there, just trying to smile and nod. And
that's the way to do it. We went to Skeffington's to pick out the stuff, and she made me try on, I don't know how many different tuxes.
Yep. All you need to do.
And then she's like, that's the one. I was like, cool.
Just make sure
and
you're
then
there
just
on time. He was actually in a boot at the time too.
Really?
After he broke his foot for the second time or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was over the second one.
So crazy.
That's funny.
You going to the wedding?
I am.
Are
so
you?
Brock and Crystal's? Yeah.
Yeah. You were at our wedding.
I was, yeah.
It was a good time. It was a good wedding, wasn't it?
It was a very good wedding.
It
was a very good
I swear.
A lot of fun.
All my friends and family were like, we never been to a better wedding. I'm like, I don't know what happened. Everybody was dancing. Everyone was having a good time.
Something about stealing cookies, but we don't
we don't need to talk about those cookies. Those cookies I was eating.
Yeah. No, it was fun. It was so good. But that's the other thing too, is even after he graduated, like coaches still make an effort to reach out to say, you're doing great, or make it to the wedding. He was still playing at the time, but that's just really cool to see too, that there's still that relationship there.
Yeah, the relationships are everything.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Okay. Other thing was, you were a finalist for the Walter Payton Man of the Year.
I don't know. Listen, this award has morphed and changed.
Okay.
Huge. I was actually 2-time.
Were you really?
Yeah. So but it's wild because it's not like, now it's a big deal. It was not a big deal at the time. It was like, hey Woods, you're going to be the representative for the Cardinals for the Walter Payton. You've done a lot of community service. Like, all right, sure. What's that mean? Yeah. Nothing. At the time, now it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that I enjoy, because it was a part of my life at community service and doing those things in the Arizona community. But I can tell you, it looks better than. Like right now, if you're a finalist and you're the person that represents your team, it is a huge deal in the NFL. At the time, it was sort of like, all right, buddy, it's your turn. You got this.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What were some of the things you did down in Arizona?
So worked this reading program called Milk and Cookies. Did you ever do Hawkeye Readers when you were here?
Yeah.
So we started that when we came here as Hawkeye Readers. It's basically the Milk and Cookies program. Transition to Hawkeye Readers here. For
those of you that don't know, it's players go and read to local elementary schools.
Yep. And they're trying to promote reading and how it can help you. And it's funny, I was actually talking about this the other day. I did not like to read at all when I was young. Like, it was, why would I read? No way. Remember my high school counselor was like, you need to learn how to read. Not learn. You need to.
I was going to say, your high school
I already know how to read.
Elementary education. Is that for the kids or for you?
But it's like, you need to get more comfortable with reading. And it's something Coach Ferentz stresses to kids all the time. He ends every camp that we have in the summer about the importance of reading. But now I love to read. I don't always have the time, but I love to read. And I just find it one, to educate you, of course. But 2, it like quiets your mind. It puts you in a different place. It like calms me down. But at the time when I was young, like, why would I read? This doesn't make any sense. I want to, play video games. I want to watch TV.
Right.
But that was something that they tried to push, the Milk and Cookies program, which is also why we started the I worked with Chick Egiassi at the time, trying to start the Hawkeye Readers program here. But so doing that, doing stuff with the animal shelter, homeless shelters in Arizona. Trying to think, I think, man, that's like 20 some years ago.
Yeah,
but those are the things that we were doing. Habitat for Humanity.
It was very cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
So then coaching wise, you're out of the NFL. You're done playing golf for 9 months.
Yes.
Were you going for the pro-am or?
I was just trying to get good at golf. That's all I was trying to do. And I went to real estate school.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So you almost got into the
the
game.
advice of Emmett Smith.
Really?
Yeah. So he had just gone to real estate school. So he played for the Cardinals for his final 2 years. And he asked me, "What are you doing in the off season?" I was like, "I don't know why." And he's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm going to real estate school." I'm like, "Real estate school? Why would you do that?" He's like, "Well, if I want to invest in real estate, I want to learn it. I want to know it."
Mm.
He's like, "You should do it." So I did it. So
Dang.
So you know a thing or two?
I wouldn't say that. But I went to the school. It was 90, I think it was 90 hours. So it was 9 days or 10 days, 9 hours a day.
Wow.
Like just straight, 2 weeks, basically 2 weeks straight.
Dang.
Just getting hammered.
Just getting drilled in the brain of real estate.
It's a good thing you learned how to read.
Yeah, exactly.
Back in high school.
Back in high
school.
Back in high school, and they taught me how to read.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. So then let's just kind of hop to, I guess, this point in your career. Special teams coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it like having Tori Taylor as a special teams coordinator? And you have Kinnick Stadium chanting Ozzy,
Yeah.
Ozzy, Ozzy. And
Yeah.
like
He cringes when you say that. You
I know
can't-
he does. He
can't
told me
do it.
that.
Tori does?
Yeah, he's like, please don't say that.
He was
My
our
bad.
first ever guest on the
Oh,
podcast.
okay.
Yeah. And you know how honest he is.
Yeah. He's very honest. Yeah.
Which is cool. But yeah, and you've got Kinnick Stadium like MVP every time he punts. I mean, as a special teams coordinator, like trying to navigate like stardom for a punter like that.
Yeah,
What's
it's
that
very,
like?
very strange.
Yeah.
Let's start there. Very strange. And he and I had a conversation when he's going through the draft process. I just need to let you know, like, it's not going to be like this when you go to the NFL. But I think that speaks more to Tori, you know, like than it does the position or the situation or anything for him, because he's just a really good dude and really, you mentioned honest, like he's brutally honest. Sometimes he's like a little too honest and people get shocked, but,
Right.
but he's an awesome guy. And like, you just want to see him do well, you know, not only that, but he's incredibly gifted at what he does. It's ultimate storm for people wanting to cheer for him in the stadium, you know, being all excited. Like nowhere else is he ever going to go. I shouldn't say nowhere. But I'd be shocked if he goes somewhere and goes into a stadium and they announce his name in the starting lineups and the place goes bananas. Like we had to use a silent count on the first punt of every game at home because
They were cheering
it
to
was so loud. Like we knew it was going to be loud. Like, all right, we're just going to do silent count. Which is, you know, it's a cadence
Yeah.
where no one says anything. It's on a certain trigger that
That's wild.
gets the ball snapped. But it's rather than trying to yell and scream at each other, but it's just really cool. And like to see his parents see that, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, like, cause they had no idea. They'd never been to the US before. And for them to walk in and but they think that's how it is for all punters and like
Sure.
in all games and all stadiums. And then, but it's definitely not that.
So did he start the Australian pipeline now? Because our current punter is Australian, right?
Yeah. Actually, Michael Sleep Dalton, who was
Oh,
the
yeah.
punter before Tori. Yeah.
I forgot he was also from Australia. He was like 20. He was an older guy too, right? 26.
He's,
27?
yeah, a couple of years, a little bit older, about the same as Tori. I think 25 when he graduated.
Wow.
Tori shared a little bit about his recruiting story, but like how hard is it as a coach to evaluate that kind of stuff? Because they play Australian rules football, but I know that they've got, what did Tori call it? Like the boot project or something.
I have no idea.
It was like kick something. I forget.
Pro kick.
Yeah, it was something that connects them to.
Yeah.
Like
pro
recruiting
kick
service.
is what it's called.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work as a coach?
Is like,
Recruiting
which part?
kids from Australia.
Recruiting them. So the guys at Pro Kick are they know, I always say they know your punting situation probably better than you know your punting situation.
Mm.
So they've scouted it out. They know who should go where, whose style fits your style.
You're talking like they understand
Yeah.
the college?
Oh yeah, they study the crap out of it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But they're very adamant about where they're going to place guys and who has the personality to match with you and who has the leg to match with you. It's very, very interesting. But I would say this, that I thought they did a really good job matching me with Tori. Even though I hadn't met them at the time, they just kind of knew Iowa but they also had a few other guys. Hey, if you don't like Tori, there are these other people you could choose from when you go to recruit.
Here, yeah.
But I think it worked out. I think it worked out well. I think the gentleman that's here with us now with Reese, I think that's going to be a really good fit. I think, they know how we took care of Tori and helped Tori. And so now with Reese, I think it's a good match. So we'll see how it works out for him. He's still has competition.
Of course.
And he's got competition. He's got to prove it. And he's a very talented young man. I think the whole room right now is really good.
I saw you already gave him number
talented.
9. I was surprised. I was like, Tori's number already turned over?
It's funny. They wanted it that way. Those two did, which is kind of cool, I think.
Huh.
Wow.
So
that's interesting. Yeah, he said when we were talking to Tori about when you went down and saw him for the first time, he said you came walking across the field and he's like, are they all this big?
Yes.
Wait, he said that about me or I said it about him?
About you.
He said that about you. He's like,
well, I saw Tori. I was like, man, this is huge.
Yeah. He is bigger than you expect, actually.
Yeah, he is for sure.
That's good. All right. So to kind of like wrap everything up, typical media question. You can just feed me your typical media answer.
Okay.
I know about the media training. Okay.
It's all about the team.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, but can you just give us a little pulse on the team right now? I know we're at the time of recording this, we're kind of like mid-July, kind of end of summer, but what's everything looking right now?
So
How's
we're
the building
10
feeling?
11 days out from the start, from when the players report. I think things are in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
Got a chance to watch the guys condition today, which is good because I haven't seen them condition. But I feel really good about the team. Feel good about some young guys that we have. It's like some freshmen that I think it's a really good freshman class that just haven't seen them in football action yet.
Mm-hmm.
So anxious to get to camp for sure. And I really like my room with the specialist, and we'll see kind of where it goes. But we're all excited. And I think fans are excited. Everyone's excited. There's a new offense. Everyone's talking about that. There's new wrinkles in the defense and special teams. Probably no one's talking about that. But
they might be. We really liked our punter.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't think they're talking about wrinkles in special teams, but I know we're pretty excited for what the next season brings.
Yeah, it'll be good, man. It's as you guys know, our fans are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They're absolutely amazing, and we're all excited and just got to see where we go. I felt like spring was really good. We had a lot of older guys that did not practice in spring, which allows opportunity for young guys to improve and improve faster. A lot of times that may not show up the first year, but this next year, like let's say a freshman gets a lot of work as in spring. It may not show up that first year, but they make big jumps the following year. So hopefully we get a chance to see that this year and into next.
Well, once things click, that's where everything goes, right? It's going to take a little bit for things to click. And I'm speaking not for you, but I know offensively when you're doing something brand new, it's just going to take a little bit to click and figure out how everybody fits in.
Sure.
So I'm excited to see like mid to late season once everybody kind of gets their head around what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what'll happen.
Yeah.
At the end of camp, my favorite answer is always like, oh, how excited are you guys for first game that's coming up? A media question. That guys always say, yeah, we're just excited to play somebody else. It's been Iowa versus Iowa for a really long time.
That's the truth, though.
I know it's the truth.
You're hitting
but
the
it's
same dude
it's
constantly.
always the same answer.
Yeah.
It cracks me up. Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time. I
Yeah,
know you
thank
guys
you guys. I'm glad it worked out. I appreciate you guys thinking of me and having me on.
Totally. I know you guys got a busy schedule, and hopefully you got a little bit of downtime this summer. And
I hope so too.
oh, very cool.
Hope so too.
Well, Coach, best of luck this season, and thanks again.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Locally owned and operated, Performance is a full-service restoration company serving Eastern Iowa.
As an IICRC certified firm, their multi-licensed technicians have decades of experience in water, mold, and fire mitigation. Whether it's your home or business, this is the team you want in a time of need. Performance Restoration, 319-626-2292.
I love Estella's because it's fresh, from the fresh grilled steak to salsas to their fresh pressed tortillas.
I love Estella's because it's quick. We can get in and out, and it doesn't feel like fast food. It feels like fresh food quick.
We both love Estella's because it's made with love. They put a lot of pride in their food and customer service, and they are locally owned.
That's Estella's Fresh Max. Fresh food made quick with love.
Hey, Hawk fans, looking for the perfect spot to fuel up before or celebrate after a Hawkeye win? Look no further than Marquee Pizzeria, located in the vibrant Iowa River Landing.
Their wood-fired pizzas have truly changed the pizza game.
Whether you're cheering on the Hawkeyes or just searching for a delicious meal, Marquee Pizzeria is the place to be. Swing by and experience the best pizza in Iowa. Go Hawks. Looking to make a splash online in Eastern Iowa? Digital Boost is your local go-to digital marketing agency. They help local businesses connect with their ideal customers online.
Digital Boost has a diverse client base, ranging from small businesses to industry leaders, including well-known brands like DNR Pest Control and Advanced Millwork.
Visit their website at www.digitalboostia.com to learn more or contact them for a free in-person consultation. Okay, Matt, it is officially game week. Can you believe it?
It's kind of crazy.
It is kind of crazy. Your first official home game with Solon.
This Friday.
Because you are coaching again with them with the wide receivers. And then the first home game for the Iowa Hawkeyes. 3 home games in a row to start off the season.
Yeah, the kids and I are going to be great.
Crazy. Yeah. Everyone always says, "Where's your husband?" at the games. And
At
I say,
home with the
"Daddy
kids."
daycare." Every time.
I say it with a low voice, but I do enjoy it.
Yeah. Special days. Days with dad, you know?
Days with dad.
All right. So we're taking on Illinois State. And they are the Fighting Redbirds.
Mm-hmm.
Just the Redbirds or the Fighting Redbirds?
I believe they're just the Redbirds.
Yeah.
But
So they used to be, okay, we're going to start back. We're going to get into our mascot teachings again.
have to.
I know.
How are you going to do it for all the Big Ten? You know what? We'll
Teams that we have
get there when
already
we get there.
covered. We'll find some new info.
Subscribe
all right.
to find out.
Going all the way back to 1923. So unofficially, they were known as the Fighting Teachers.
Teachers?
Yeah. Unofficially. But do you remember last year when we were talking about all the mascots or like fun facts about different schools? And I was like, I swear most of these names that are included in these stories are not real. Like somebody just made this
Is
stuff
there
up.
more?
This one. So the athletics director in 1923 was Clifford E. Horton,
No.
but he went by Pops.
No.
So I'm like, I just don't know that that's a real guy, but like, okay. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure it was. But anyway, 1923, he was like, I don't want us to be the Fighting Teachers anymore. We're going to be the Fighting Redbirds. But originally he wanted it to be the Cardinals, but they didn't want to get confused with St. Louis, with the baseball team. And so they were like, you know what? We can still be like essentially a Cardinal, but we'll be known as the Redbirds. So then in 1930, they had like their first illustrations of a Cardinal that kind of like went along with the school. And it was like something that was kind of close to like the St. Louis Cardinal,
Sure.
but then also kind of like a realistic one that was sitting on a branch. Like there wasn't really like anything official and not like the mascot cartoony type things that you see today.
Not like the Iowa State stuff.
Yeah, but you get there. But in the 1960s, like 30 years later, they had like 4 beefy, like bulked up Redbirds that said they had t-shirts on and each one had a different letter and it was my goodness, ISNU. So the N was normal. So as I'm reading this, and this is from the Illinois State like official website, as I'm reading this, I was like, so they were Illinois State Normal University at some point? I didn't look any farther into that, but it said they dropped normal in 1964.
That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
I know. So then I was like, well, they're from Normal, Illinois, but I don't think that's where they're from. And is Normal, Illinois a place? I have no idea. I'm just making guesses.
That is, Orgalina. Just keep going. That's an inside joke.
So anyway, they dropped the N, the normal, in 1964. And then in 1981, they coined Reggie Redbird, and that was by the Junior Redbird Club came up with that name. And it was actually named after baseball great Reggie Jackson. So that's 1981. And then sometime in the 80s, they really came up with like what Reggie Redbird was going to officially look like. And then in 1996, they unveiled the new Redbird like logo and mascot. And then that's what we know today as their mascot, which actually is a really long time, you know? It's almost, 28 years to have the exact same, what?
When was it?
I'm so sorry. 26
19
years.
what?
26 years.
So was it 1998?
So sorry. I don't want to do this. No, I'm not doing it.
What was the
Cut
year?
it out.
No, what was the year?
No.
Leave it, John. What was the year?
1996.
1996.
It's 28.
It's 28 years.
You know why I know that? Because I was born in 1994. It's the only way that I knew that math.
Great.
So I'm so sorry. That was very embarrassing for me. I'm probably a little red. But actually, Reggie is known to be like really talented, which is kind of cool. So the mascot does
Can do good things.
Some cool things. So back in like the 90s, they had a guy, the mascot, there isn't a guy in there, it's just a bird, would like shoot baskets at halftime, would make half court shots, like that kind of stuff. He would do dances and different routines. He'd had a drumline routine that he did with like the Illinois State Band.
That sounds pretty cool.
One year in 2018, he played the national anthem on an electric guitar
What?
for a basketball game. And so the guy, okay, words out.
Bird.
There's a guy in there.
No, it's a bird.
He
You're
actually
not gonna ruin
like,
this for me.
no, he cut holes in the mascot's hands. And so immediately when I read that, I was like, hold on a second. Like all the conversations we had last year about how much mascot uniforms and like costumes, cost.
Dumb money.
Yeah. Red flag, red bird. But I was like, I can't believe they let him, do that. And so anyway, he cut holes like in the gloves, and then he cut like a hole for the pick, like the guitar pick to go through. And he said he would always practice in the dark and standing up because he had to have muscle memory on how to do the national anthem in this costume because you can't look down. So imagine this bird just actually it's kind of a funny picture when you think about it. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
Wow.
And then another guy, I don't want to end it on this note, but this is the last note I have.
It's going to be sad.
No, he's fine. But one time he got so hot in the costume, because I guess it's like a really heavy.
I'm sure.
He explained it as a carpet of a costume, like it's really thick. He got so dehydrated and so sweaty that he had to go to the hospital because he got so dehydrated. Isn't that crazy?
No, Reggie.
I know, but on a funny note, he said he also like the costume smelled so bad by the end of a game that he would have to go hang it up in like their dorm bathroom because it just.
So there was only one Reggie the whole time?
I can't confirm or deny.
I mean, we've got multiple.
Matt, there's one Herky.
I see him all over town.
There's also some stories of like some previous Redbirds that said like, oh, one time I was walking and I tripped over this at the football stadium and my head popped off. Imagine how terrible that would be. And then it got me thinking, not to give too much away, I'm not going to say, it's just a mascot that I know very well. I'm not going to say who it is. I'm pretty sure has like a football chin strap.
To keep it on?
To keep it on, which is genius. I'm not going to say who that is.
Smart. Mm-hmm. Probably the Solon Spartan.
So there you go, Reggie Redbird.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. What do you know about the football team?
Well, I don't know if you've got the talent for electric guitar in the dark, standing up, national anthem. But so offensively, they're going to have a new quarterback. They had a transfer from K-State join them who didn't play a ton of football at K-State, but older guy. They had a guy who played a little bit last year, Tommy Rittenhouse. Offensively, looks like they're going to do some motions. They're okay dinking and dunking, which is just, 4 or 5 yard passes, run the ball.
Nuts.
Well, usually that's what Iowa forces you to do. And then they lull you to sleep, and then they hit a deep ball. They do have this kid on the outside. He had 960 something yards last year. As a sophomore, 10 touchdowns. Wow. Like, he's the guy. Mm-hmm. If it's one-on-one, they're going to go to this kid. I'm blanking on his name. I apologize. But he's back. They're not their second receiver, but the third receiver's back, fourth receiver's back. So they've got a little bit of depth for guys that have played. Coach has been there a long time. OC's only been there for a couple of years. D coordinator's been there for 6-7 years. So they're starting to do something. Went 6-5 last year, split in the MAC. So not like super crazy, but obviously you can't take anybody light. I mean, that's the way it is. But new quarterback, running back had 900 something yards. He's back. So definitely versatile in the amount of yards that they had. They passed for, I think, 500 more yards than we did last year. So they're not afraid to sling it. But again, it was a lot of short stuff. They're willing to take their shots. They just don't always connect. But they're willing to at least keep you honest enough to have to do the deep ball. So defensively, just do what you do. Like, you're going to force them to dink and dunk. And then when they get impatient, that's when we make our plays. It's the same every year. It's why Cooper DeJean has had as many interceptions as he did. because they tried to lull him to sleep and then he just didn't. He just stayed doing his job. So I kind of expect the same thing from our defense. I feel like I really don't have a whole lot to add to that. Like, I really haven't seen a whole lot from our defense yet, of course, because there's no game film, but it's the defensive line hogging up blocks so that way Jay Higgins can go get another 170 tackles. And on the back end, obviously filling in for Cooper DeJean, John Nestor. I've heard a lot of good things about him. Jamari Harris, obviously Quinn Schulte, Xavier Wonkpa. I'm kind of interested to see how this secondary plays out. I think it's gonna be good. We've been ball hawks for so long. I'm excited to kind of see that continue. And obviously Sebastian Castro. Reference him in the backfield too. And then offensively, our offense versus their defense, they kind of run a 3-4, but with a stand-up end. So it looks like a 4-3. And when I say 4-3, 3-4, for those of us that are new to the channel, which is everybody because it's a brand new channel, it's 3 down linemen and then a stand-up linebacker who's also on the line. So when I say 3-4, it's 3 down linemen and then 4 linebackers, or 4-3, 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers. Most of the time when you see a 3-4 team, they blitz more because they want to make up and still have 4 people rushing the passer at all times. You just don't know who's coming. So it's a little bit tougher to point out exactly who they expect to come. So there's a little bit more communication up front that needs to happen. So they have a 4-3 look, but that doesn't mean that he has to come every time. They're not afraid to blitz off the side, which with our quarterback situation in terms of, we're alluding to the fact that it's Cade. We expect it to be Cade. We don't know that for a fact, but we expect it to be Cade on Saturday. So with that being the case, making sure that his communication is high with his running backs and with the tight ends in line to know who's coming so that way they can pick him up at any given time. They also run a lot of cloud coverage, but aren't afraid to go man. When I say cloud, that's a combination between whether it's maybe cover 2 or cover 6, which is a combination between cover 2 and cover 4. Cover 2 is basically like the 2 safeties have half the field. Cover 4 is the corners and the safeties. They all take a fourth of the field in terms of deep. So it's and when I say cloud, like the corners would play up and then the safeties play deep, essentially. The corners are going to be your run force guys. Safeties are going to be pass first, pass second. Now we'll come up and react. But there are some times where they're up there sniffing. So we might have an opportunity to hit some double moves, stuff like that. I'm really curious to see how we come out. Are we going to come out a lot of boots? I think third play last year was the double move touchdown. It was like Cade's first pass in Kinnick was a touchdown, something like that. Like, are we going to see that kind of stuff to come out? Or are we going to see more of the typical Iowa run the football just with this new look? Because again, we're not going to go away from what we do. You look at the roster, we got 3 fullbacks, right? Like, we're not going to go away from that, although it's going to look a lot different. I saw Weejan go in a ton of motion. When maybe it's jet sweep, maybe it's RPO type stuff, which is run pass option, meaning that they're probably going to read a linebacker. And if that linebacker moves towards the line of scrimmage, then we pull the ball and throw it behind him. Or if he stays back on the pass, then I hand it off because now we don't have to block him. So there's going to be a lot of different things that Iowa's going to have in their offense that maybe they haven't had before. But does that mean that we throw it 25 times? Or do we still throw it like the 18 to 22 by running it, 40 sometimes? So I'm kind of curious to see how Coach Lester wants to open this up. It is really weird, though, you think about it. Coach Lester's first game, his head coach isn't a part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that Coach Ferentz has shared like this is what the expectation is and everything, the foundation that I talked about earlier with the unsung hero. But that doesn't also mean that he'd like to have his guy there. So I'll be interested to kind of see how the flow of the game goes with the new guy calling plays. But I'm also really excited to just see what he does. Yeah.
It's just really cool too. There are so many like unknowns. I mean, like just...
That's where hype comes from, because you just don't know.
But also it's exciting in the fact of that's where storylines are built too, and it's really exciting just to know that Hawkeye fans are still pumped. They've sold out all 7 home games, and I'm sure they'll show up and show out to the away games as well. And yeah, it's exciting with all the question marks, it also leaves you like, there's a kind of wonder like, oh man, it's kind of exciting.
What's going to
happen? Yeah. It's pretty cool. And you're coming off a 10-win season, so it's always exciting.
Wild.
It's always exciting.
New Big Ten, I guess, huh?
Yeah. Okay, what's the weather for Saturday? I actually don't know.
I don't know either.
I'm going to look really quickly because that's important. These are things you need to know.
especially
Saturday,
for your
83 and sunny. Wow, that sounds lovely. 11 a.m. game. So it's going to get pretty hot toward the second quarter.
I was going to say
Third quarter. It's going to be pretty
What
toasty.
time of day is the hottest? Do you know?
Noonish?
No.
2.
2 o'clock.
Really? That was a guess. Interesting.
Yep. Our producer's nodding. He knows. 2 p.m.
Well, yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be cool to get back inside Kinnick Stadium and see everybody again and just all the things.
It's going to be a good time.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
Just
Great.
looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, again, we are just so excited that all of you decided to join us again for season 2 of Talkin' Hawks. And again, I just want to reiterate that this is a brand new YouTube channel. And so if you would share this with your friends and your family so that you can get those notifications when we put out new videos, I guess new episodes, whatever, share it with everybody and make sure you subscribe because that's how
Why
you
wouldn't
can
you?
best support us. And we would just really appreciate that. So, but as we transition over to this new YouTube channel and ask for subscribers and all the good things, we also want to say thank you to Estella's Fresh Mex, first of all, for sponsoring the podcast. And second, for allowing us on your channel, the Taco-Bout Network. There are so many great shows that are on their channel. They've got
Well, Jada just started one.
Jada started one. I believe Peyton Sanford's got one right now as well. So many other great shows that are on there too. And we're just so grateful that they gave us the opportunity to start this podcast on their channel and to, share this with all of you. So again, Estella's, we appreciate you. And thank you so much for your continued support with the Talkin' Hawks podcast. So shout out Estella's. First game of the season. Can't wait to see what happens. And we'll have plenty to talk about next week for our recap and preview of the Cy Hawk game. We'll see you then. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.